Hello, this is Lisa Lee, and welcome to today's Pick a Card. We are going to be looking at the question, who are you becoming? And we're going to be connecting with the guide that is very much your personal. Everybody has a bevy of guides, everybody has a whole group of them, but most of us have a type of like guardian angel or a daemon or a energy that is very specifically something that comes into this world with us when we are born as our I want to say your person, but it's like your guide. So we're conferencing with those energies, and we're looking at who are you becoming? What is the you that your guides are wanting to help you embody as you move into this next phase, into this next cycle of your life. So we've got 3 piles. If you find yourself in the shock of the new, when I shuffled these cards out, this was the bottom of the deck. So if you are in a shock of your newness, all 3 may be for you. That is a possibility. But we have pile number 1, which is the little kittens. Pile number 2, that is the honeybee candle. And pile number 3, that is the little deer and the little tree. And the timestamps will be below, and I'll see you again in just a second. Okay, pile number 1, those of you that chose the twin kitties, we've got receiving as the card that came out. Now let me get some more cards. I'm going to speed up your shuffle. Okay, pile number 1. The first thing I want to say about this energy is that it's a very sweet energy. It's a kind energy. It's like a super loving energy. And this is an energy that is bringing you into a period of your life. There's something about who you are and what you represent that there's an enlightenment and an enchantment built into your... Like there's the form that you take in each life. You take a new form, you take a new body, you take a new story, you take a new circumstance, and then there's the form, like the in uppercase, like the form, like who you are, like your original form, what you will return to. I'm trying to get a better picture. It's if you close your eyes and you seek your presence, like it's that part of you, like that part of you that is so encoded with just the essence of who you are. And at the essence of who you are, you have an enlightening, enchanting quality. And you've always had this enlightening, enchanting quality, and you are enchanted by life. And in that enchantment, you become enlightened. And so it's like you are what you also express very naturally. It's like the same thing. What we're seeing here with receiving and desire and focus and inner beauty and self-care is that the phase of your life, like who you are becoming right now, actually you're not really, like your guides are almost saying, and this guide in particular is saying, like who you are becoming is almost beside the point. You are in a new phase of you, a new phase of your experience, a new phase of what it feels like to be you. And there is this entire digestion process that's at play here in terms of what it means for you to begin to receive, what it is for you to tap into, like your real desires, like what do you really want? Why do you really want it? How does it speak to the truth of who you truly are? Like there's a lot here that is happening in the way of transformation. Like you are undergoing a major transformation here, and it's an encounter with your true self, and it's an encounter with the part of you that I want to say it was lost, and I want to say it was lost to time. Interesting. So, because like where you are right now is you're having to focus on what it means to reconnect with your own source, your own sense of your own inner beauty, and then to begin to express that. And what that expression looks like is self-care. Expressing your inner beauty is self-care. That's what it looks like. That's what it is in the form of the expression that you have of connecting with your inner beauty is simultaneously self-care. And there's a need for a big focus on this. And so like the shock of the new with you in terms of receiving is receiving yourself. And I have to look at that again and again because it's hard for me to understand exactly, because it seems like this whole section here is about a process that you underwent, that you were going through, that was very much about divorcing you from the self, keeping you from some sense of self, putting you in service of all the others around you, and making your sense of self be something that is validated by your contributions. Like, there's some way in which you get lost or got lost in the original process of becoming. And so, like, when you were, becoming you, there was a lot of debris that fell in the wounds that like occurred when people wouldn't let you express yourself naturally or authentically. And so this is a process that you are in that is kind of tricky. And so with that Knight of Cups and that Justice, like not being offered love in the way that you were designed to receive it, has like left in you some form of like an injustice that resulted in making it hard for you to like access and step into an expression of your own desire, allowing yourself to desire, being desired, whatever punishment that you incurred, like just being in this fucked up world. I shouldn't curse on these. Being in this messed up world has put you in a position where like what it means to receive love, what it means to offer love at the heart of this, like at the juncture, at the crossroads of this operation, is a feeling of hurt and injustice. And so that Five of Pentacles with the Three of Swords is, again, it's a feeling left out and heartbroken as a result of feeling left out, not being given the opportunities to mature in certain ways, not being given the opportunities to have certain types of relationships, or those relationships, those opportunities were not good. Whatever it is, it leaves you in a position where you're looking from the outside. You're looking at the wedding from outside of it, and you're looking at the birthday party from outside of it. You're looking at the warm, safe, comfortable house from outside of it, and the heartbreak that comes from that sort of being left out. And so there's a lot that you are carrying with you from the past with this Eight of Cups that has to be let go of. And that part of you that you're carrying with the past, a lot of those stories and a lot of those experiences, they need a witness, they need bearing witness, they need you to speak like to and about and process and be with this part of yourself. The Ten of Wands says this is has been a very hard, back-breaking journey with a lot that has been put on you that you've had to carry alone. And this Temperance energy is this energy of the guide that we're communicating right now, that very sweet energy that's saying, I am here, and this relationship with me, like this is a Temperance, this is the angel of balance, and it's an angel that is bringing healing in through. And I think that this is really that guardian angel energy that's with you, that energy that is working with you, has always been working with you, and this energy has worked hard with you. Let's just be clear, everything that you went through here in the way of this last story, like your guide has worked hard to lift you up, to transform it, to give you a different picture, to be everything that you could have needed in the absence of all the things that you needed. Holy shit, that just hit me like a wave. I almost started crying. This energy has been so powerfully your ally. This energy has been so powerfully every role that you've ever needed filled that nobody filled for you. And I think that that's sort of the reason why you are as spiritual as you are. It's the reason why you are as connected as you are, because in defiance of these circumstances that you had to move through, this energy was there. And this energy is saying, to this Queen of Cups, and the Six of Swords, like this energy saying, we are moving you into a better place than what it is to experience yourself, a better place than what it is to experience life, and a better place than what it is to actually even like receive. And so I think it's really important that we look at where you're coming from, and we look at the help that's arrived and what it means for you to receive that help here is almost walking away from some of the attachments that you have to the parts of your story that held you together, but very imperfectly. There's something so beautiful about the way that this energy loves you powerfully, fiercely, ferociously, and has been like this shape-shifting force of love that has come to you in every limerent form to call you out of the darkest of places. And even in that transformation that you've had to go through that has knocked you down, this has always been the energy that has been in your ear, giving you inspiration to pick you up again. And so this energy is saying, you know, at a certain level, we have arrived. And at this point, when we're looking at this change and who you are becoming, we have arrived at a place where you can even step into a kind of becoming. Because here, this is all survival. This is all, you know, an offer of love tainted, an offer of love withheld. That's that injustice around whatever that Knight of Cups energy is. That left out in the cold here with the Five of Pentacles. Every time I feel this, I feel somebody who's wounded, who keeps on looking to the world and saying, like, is there a safe place for me to heal? And the world keeps on saying, who? Where? No. Like, that's that heartbreak. That's a very heavy heartbreak. And so with that Ten of Wands, again, being the battles that you fought and won, and that resilience and that perseverance and that strength and that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be okay again, and all that has been sort of holding you is this Temperance card. The transformation that we're talking about here is one where you're moved away from this, and being moved away from this also means saying goodbye to some of what it meant to be in these situations as a you. Because the you that you're becoming with student, slave, and poet, and this is an interesting combination, and don't worry about that slave. That's actually part of the beauty of your spread here, is that there is a fight to the finish to survive against all odds, to rescue others and yourself. Like, there is the warrior spirit here. And then over here we have an ability to, like, allow something to take care of you with the slave, divine and complete trust. That's surrender. Like, that's kind of the you that you are becoming. And you might even feel this right now as like a softness within you. Like, whereas this is a fight to the finish to survive no matter what. And there's humor and there's grit and there's even a type of languishing that almost feels like love in this section, or what I would call your past here. But this is without having received anything except this very spiritually powerful inheritance that gave you tremendous emotional intelligence. But where you're moving with that, let's get some cards. Let's take a look. Let's see what Spirit wants to show you about this. You're learning how to be you in a new way. And again, that's self-care. Like, I feel like there's a total absence of self-care here. I feel like over here, there's taking care of everybody else just for your survival, like begging for mercy by just being as useful as humanly possible. Like, that's over here. And so I think self-care and you are not something that go together. You know how to take care of yourself in relationship to others. You know how to clean your house if someone else is coming over, so that they have a certain, like, experience of what it is to encounter you in your home. But I don't see that you really know how to care for yourself. You can be the best for everybody else, and I mean the best. But this is where you were neglected as a child. This is where you were taught to neglect yourself in service of narcissists. And this is where you are in terms of what this focus is right now for you. What you are becoming is a version of yourself that has overcome all of this, but you are in this interim step of having to understand that this focus on your inner beauty and connecting with your inner beauty is also self-care. And so that's where we have the student, the poet, and the slave here. And so let me get some more cards, because that's not really easy. A lot of times when we begin to care for ourselves, when we have lived in levels of deprivation, it's sort of like this person who's been starving to death, and then somebody gives them a big meal and all they can do is throw it up. There is this relationship to pain, deprivation, and neglect that requires a type of soft, very, very soft touch when you begin to integrate care and love and kindness back into the experience of the body. Because there's I'm seeing this vision that I get sometimes of, like, the child who's had a horrible day at school, worst day that anybody's ever had, worst day imaginable. They were bullied, they were treated mean, but they didn't want to cry at school, and so they held it together. They held it together. They were bullied. Their class project didn't go well. Their lunch box, like, got wet. and then the teacher didn't remember that they were supposed, like that horrible day. Like I'm seeing like a series of assaults from the universe on like a very underprepared kid, and that kid being strong, and that kid being like, I'm not gonna let it get me down. I'm gonna stand up to this. I'm not gonna cry at school. I'm not gonna let them see me break. There's this moment then when that child is strong and holding it together, when they get off the bus and they get into the house and they open that door, and the first 3 steps in the door, all of that strength collapses. And now that child has seen its mother, that child has seen its sibling, somebody who cares about it, and the entire strength of holding up the difficulties of that day just shatter. And now that child in that moment can't even find words, because the strain of holding it together for so long is now replaced with just a complete collapse and just an emotional flood. This is what I'm talking about when I say we got to reorient you from over here with all of this to actually finding a place where it is safe for you to collapse into that place of you can be vulnerable. You are safe. There is a softness. This is a place where you don't have to hold yourself together. And that place is less a location in the world and more a location in yourself. And so what your guides are saying about what you are becoming, or this next phase of who you are, a lot of it is about learning how to receive. And that does start with you. It starts with you, not because your guides can't bring you in the people who can give you what you need. It starts with you because of whatever this situation with the starvation. You can't take a big meal. You can't take someone coming in your life and saying, hey, we're going to clean up this house together and I'm going to take care of you and we're going to make sure you're like, you can't, there's no trust for that. And even if that were to happen, it would be so disorienting at such a deep level that we have to start with you in terms of what it means to bring love into your life, to bring care into your life. Because this taking care of everybody else with a gun to your head, as the shadow aspect of the slave, giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. And with you, it's not out of fear of making your own choices. This was survival, giving your power to an external authority just to get through the day, because that was what was required of you. And so we don't go from having every single moment of your life and your willpower being something that was taken from you and you had no choice but to give your authority over. We don't go from that to you being able to like easily surrender into the powerful, into the, like to easily surrender your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. Like these are two things that are so far apart from each other that this first trusting yourself and first bringing in some of that nourishment and some of that nutrients into your experience of your life does start with you. And so that the way that this starts with you is, again, because we don't even have any way for you to understand what the hell self-care is. People can say self-care to you all day long, and all it's going to mean is that you're going to try to self-care and it's not going to do the thing that you expected. You might try to self-care and it just costs $100 and you have nice nails that chip after 2 hours and like you're not really sure why you did that. Like there's a lot of ways in which self-care is sold to you, but the experience of what it is to care for yourself is so foreign that these attempts to keep on buying the self-care or alleviating some of that deprivation, that they're just not doing it. And so like this moment in time is less about who you are going to become and more about what it means for you to be in that process of becoming. And so when we think about what your inner beauty is and you tapping into this focus on what is my inner beauty, how then does it express? It always expresses through some level of self-care. And so let's look at that a little bit closer, because I see that you have to be a student in respect to this. It doesn't come naturally. This is not easy to figure out. A lot of times with people, I'll see this thing with self-love, where like this has come through some reading somewhere, but I remembered it as being very significant, where self-love, we can tell each other, you got to practice self-love. You got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. If you don't even know what your love languages are in relationships, how are you supposed to practice that self-love? If your love language is quality time and all you keep on doing is giving yourself gifts because you're trying to participate in self-care, what you actually need is what's going to feel like love to you, very specific to who you are. And so part of what it means, and there's a lot of absence here, especially in terms of practicing relating and the opportunities to mature in relationships. So it's like it's a lot here that's super difficult in terms of what does it mean for you to express your inner beauty if you don't have any mirroring. Then that is very difficult, because your inner beauty is something that you have a sense of based on others mirroring what is beautiful about you to them. And we do not have a safe world, and we do not have a world that does that anymore. And to the extent that it used to do that, it has gone all the way to late stage capitalism. You are not the only one who doesn't have a sense of yourself and your beauty. You probably have a sense of yourself in comparison to however somebody else wants to rank you, or how you've been told to rank yourself. But this inner beauty and your experience of your inner beauty, this is again going to be a student. It's a process of discovery. It's something that you have to have a devotion to, an openness about learning. And so let's get some cards on what this might mean for you. What does your guide think of this inner beauty? Because there's a lot of punishing energy around you. And I don't think at this point, I mean, I think you've done enough of the work that punishing energy is not a presence, like a person or an entity or an energy. At this point, I think that those punishing energies are like patterns that you have been given. So your guides are saying, you know, when it comes to spending money on a catastrophe, when it comes to spending money on, and by catastrophe, I mean like, not, this is a hard thing because we're in the Great Depression again, like it's not an easy thing to express, but your guys are showing me something very, very specific about how you have a really hard time spending money on yourself in the ways that will most bless, invigorate, and like offer you sustenance. When it comes to spending money on yourself, you have certain permissions. Like you can allow for a splurge with, you know, something like that isn't going to be an experience. Like there's something about you and paying for experiences that would enrich you that you refuse to do. And that's okay, because this is a very big point of trauma where whenever you had a need, somebody said no, or whenever you had a need, that need was met with some sort of scorn or punishment or some kind of referendum on why your need is too much for the person who is meant to provide for you. There's something so incredibly powerful about you not even knowing how to allow yourself to be blessed like by your labor. So you work really, really hard and there doesn't seem to be any reward. And I know a lot of that has to do with opportunity, but your guides keep on saying like there's just a relationship to yourself that is antagonistic at certain pitch points. And so when we see this Two of Cups, and we see this Six of Cups, and we see this Justice card, there has been a tremendous amount of injustice when it comes to being seen clearly and understood. There's been a tremendous amount of justice in childhood, and that's why the Justice card is showing up here with the Six of Cups and the Two of Cups. And so when we think about self-care, I think you're waiting for some permission from the people that you love to get what you need in relationship to love. And again, I understand that. Like I think with the Empress card here, I want to just talk about it. Like I had a vision during my meditation today that made me cry, completely made me cry, and I think that that's what I'm looking at here. And so I invite you to if you're in a place where you can be emotional, like this might be a little bit emotional. If not, maybe pause this. But I saw a vision of two children, and it was this overlap. Sometimes I'll see like the timelines overlap. So I could see these two children, and it was like a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and then I could see an overlap, and the overlap was the version of these two children that would become adults. And so there's these two adults, and I can see like this. It's like a type of movement around the adults where they're very, very busy. There's lots of things demanding, that everything's overwhelming. Adult life is just some kind of just a horrible like nightmare of demands. And I see that kind of like overlaid over this, these two children. And these two children, again, like 6 and 8, they're close in age. They're really, really close. They love each other more than anything. Even though they fight, it doesn't matter. Like all they know is love, and there's nothing else because of the age that they are. And one little kid turns to the other little kid and says, when we grow up, if I become broken, will you provide for me a safe place to heal? It was like the cutest little question, and it came out of a little mouth, and it shocked me because it was so intelligent. He was turning to the as a 6-year-old turning to an 8-year-old and said, if when I grow up and I get broken and all my parts are broken, will you provide a safe place for me to put myself back together again? It was such an incredible moment. But what scared me and what upset me so much was overlaid over that, because you had the 8-year-old with a heart that said, yes, of course, if you break all of your pieces up, I'll make a place for you to put yourself back together. But overlaid over that were these 2 adults bickering, and it was one adult saying, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have to leave. I don't know where I'm going to go. And the other adult saying, I don't have room for you. Like, life is just so hard right now, and not being able to help. And I saw this overlay of like the tremendous love that was there, the tremendous love that was unquestioned. Of course, I'll provide a place for you if all of your pieces are broken. That love was impeccable. It was without a doubt. It was solid. And what took from that love, what changed that love, what broke that love, what shattered that love, were these demands that meant absolutely nothing in the bigger picture. But because that bigger picture took dominion over the lives of these 2 children, there was no way for this love to be expressed. And then I was able to see cut to another scene, and another scene is the same 2 siblings, except that it's a funeral, and one has passed and one remains. And this memory comes back of this incredible, like, grief of, I wish that I could have expressed my love to you. I have all this unexpressed love, and all that I expressed to you were my limitations, and those limitations had nothing to do with us. It was the most intense vision I've seen in a really long time. And I think for you, the love that you have for whoever these siblings were or whoever these people were remains like true. It remains intact. It remains profound. But the circumstances that shattered it have broken you at a level where your guides are saying, none of what you saw or none of what the experiences that you had and the interactions that you had said to you were true to the love that actually exists there. And so we were given this whole story with your reading right now, because when we talk about focus on inner beauty and self-care, one of the first things that you need to attend to is this injustice around the lack of care, and how that has nothing to do with any reflection on the presence of your inner beauty. And so even though a lot of us are crying right now, myself included, because that was a really intense vision, but I think we can relate to it because it's so true of what happens to the love that we feel for each other that is so powerfully there, but then gets warped and strangled out by demands that have nothing to do with relating, that have everything to do with a world that is in and of itself a trap. Like, this is not a good, we're going to change it, it'll change, but this is not a good situation right now. So I think that, part of what it means for you to focus on your inner beauty and self-care is to actually look at these places where there is such legitimate heartbreak, such legitimate hurt, such legitimate loss, and to forgive these places, so that you can even think of yourself in the stories of your life outside of stories of disappointment. Because part of what it is to look at your life and look at your life story and make peace with your life story, and to see yourself clearly and be able to actually access some sense of that inner beauty, that no matter what, you preserved that love. No matter what the circumstances were, you were always the one who, despite whatever was being demanded of you, had something to offer. And so when you think about your inner beauty, not in relationship to what it's gotten you, and not in relationship to what other people have been willing or able to mirror back to you, but in relationship to, this is who I am, this is what I did, and this is why I am truly beautiful. And I can't look at that true beauty without looking at the contrast of what wasn't supporting of it. And so like there's this healing process around validating like that there is inner beauty. Sitting with yourself and saying, I am so beautiful for the following reasons. There is so much beauty there that even if it has not been appreciated and witnessed yet, even if that inner beauty has not been appreciated and witnessed yet, have you stopped to sit and appreciate your inner beauty and witness your inner beauty, because that is kind of the beginning of what this focus on receiving is going to be for you, is to sit with the stories in your life and say, here's where I was beautiful, and here's where I was beautiful, and here's where I was beautiful. And I understand that this was unwitnessed, and I understand that this was unappreciated, and I understand that, you know, and that doesn't mean always, but there are times, right? And I understand that these things like are in fact beautiful, and I'm going to give myself that. And sometimes that'll leave you in a place where you're able to say, I carried all this strength, and I carried all this resilience, and I did so without witness, and therefore I deserve a fucking break when it comes to whether or not the house is cleaned, whether or not I'm living up to some expectations related to my body and how it looks at a certain time in a certain space. That inner beauty and what it means to care for yourself is to know yourself and to know what you deserve. And deserve is a funny word because no one gets what they deserve. But when it comes to the way that you regard yourself and the way that you hold your head up high, who you are becoming is somebody that is very clear on what their beauty is and what their beauty has been and what they have to offer the world with that beauty. And so that self-care kind of starts with giving yourself a break about what you might call failure in comparison to somebody who doesn't have half of the heartbreaks that you've experienced, doesn't have half of the trials and tribulations that you've experienced, because you cannot compare what you have lived through and the things that you have gone through with somebody else's level of success, because these are not even on the same page. And I don't think that you really do. But when it comes to being this student, humility and devotion to knowledge and an openness to lifelong learning with that alarm going off in the back. Let's see why we are being alerted to pay attention to something very serious right now. What is the environment telling us here by way of the student card? Let's find out. We've got all the dogs howling. Wow. Huh. This is the judgment card. So it's judgment day. I think when it comes to like this defense, is defending yourself and all of the ways in which you've had to defend yourself. Let me turn this on and off, and I'm just going to let the sirens play out. Part of that self-care is going to be like having some serious judgments. Like this judgment day card, when I was feeling into it, because that 7 of Wands is sort of like all of this that you had gone through, it sort of has you operating in defense of, and even your desires seem to be like related to like a defense. Like I desire like security. That's in defense of levels of deprivation. Like I did, but what you really desire is probably a lot more than just security. Desiring like a certain you're either just saying like that everything having to do with like the defense of this situation has brought you to a point where part of what it is to be a student here and to kind of learn who you are, to sort of get in touch with that inner beauty, is to also cast judgment on others. And I don't mean the kind of judgment where you're in comparison or envy or tyranny. And by tyranny, I mean demanding that someone see you how you want to be seen. And if they don't see you that way, then you can never look at them again. And sometimes that's applicable and sometimes that's not. But so we can become tyrannical about how we're perceived. We can become envious about the way that, like, in very weird ways too. But when we think about like what it is to actually pass judgment from a healthy place, it's having an experience of looking at these stories and sort of being able to recast yourself as somebody that did in fact go through those things and was in fact hurt in these following ways, and this was in fact wrong for the following reasons. But beyond just reporting it, being able to sort of like bring in your own sense of sovereignty around what it means to actually like be able to look at people and say, you know what, this, that, and the other are you, and therefore this is why you're not in my life. and not feel disempowered by like the prevalence and of how often people disappoint, but rather be able to just say like, this was disappointing, that was disappointing, that's where you are, and this is where I am. And even though there's some humility in terms of like having an openness to learning more about what it means to be you, because I think that there is something here about this focus on inner beauty and self-care that speaks to like, how do you even receive? A lot of that has to do with knowing yourself. And so passing judgment in some ways is a little bit a part of what it is to know yourself. You aren't willing to be cruel, ever. You've never been willing to be cruel. That other people are willing to be cruel should tell you something about who you are and what your inner beauty is as well. And so there's a lot of ways in which your guides want you to be in touch with your actual beauty, in touch with your inner beauty, but in touch with like what it is that is beautiful about you, because this is not something that your guides want you to be without a sense of. And you do have a sense of it, and you can look at other people and clearly see what their value is. But when it comes to looking at you and seeing your own value, this is what this focus on your inner beauty and self-care is all about, because that self-care comes as an extension of those judgments, saying, I am resilient and beautiful, and I am caring, and I am good. It means that the way that I take care of myself is I ensure that when I'm around somebody who needs something, that first and foremost, I make sure that my needs are met. It's sort of, we have to take care of ourselves in relation to the way that we naturally operate in the world. And that has to do with knowing ourselves. And so with the Seven of Wands at the bottom of the deck being like in defense of how people might perceive you, instead you're perceiving them. You're not in defense of anything. You're standing there with your inner beauty. You're seeing what your inner beauty is. You're knowing your strengths. You're knowing who you are. And you're perceiving where other people may not understand you, but you're not going to operate and contort yourself and build yourself into something in defense of that perception. You're just going to note it and move on. And I think that's a big part of what it is going to mean for you to actually begin to receive from the right types of people. To begin to receive from people who naturally just sort of love you, instead of looking to receive from people who you want to get it right with this time, or you want them to get it right, or you don't know if they're going to get it right, and you don't think that they're capable of it, but they're not capable of it. That's in defense of. Judgment is you stand in judgment of all of those that don't understand you or perceive you correctly, and you still show up and you confront them with your humanity, and you do so in a way that has to do with the self-care that you provide. It's a little bit convoluted at this point because I think it's getting sort of long, but ultimately what your guides want with the slave, the poet, and the student is for you to develop a relationship with yourself that is about highlighting your beauty, is about validating your strength, is about knowing where you stand out as exceptional, and you very specifically allowing yourself to have all of those qualities and all of those ways, and you're the one who is going to take care and guard to not only highlight those qualities, but also ensure that you feel powerful in them. And that's going to take learning. That's not going to come easy, but part of that learning is for you to surrender to the divine, to have some level of trust, because it's in that prayer and in that prayerful communication with the poet here that you get the inspiration that helps you with knowing yourself better as at its core an essence that is enlightened and enchanting. And so walking away from all of the defense mechanisms associated with what was not love, casting judgment on where you showed up as beautiful and as amazing and where others didn't, making a mental note of it, learning how to safeguard what it is that is beautiful about yourself, separate from where anyone else might be with that knowledge, and then surrendering to the divine, being able to trust that whatever made you you and whatever is behind what is you is leading you into this new form of expression. And it is a new form of expression. And so pile number one, I'm going to leave it there. You are entering a new path. You are on a new path. And the moment that you are in this new path, where you are with this new path, is you are in the moment of having to rescue yourself. Having to rescue yourself from these old stories. Having to rescue yourself from what these stories told you about what you were capable of. And the way that you do that is through desire. The way that you access desire is work on what it means to focus on your inner beauty and take care of what it is to make that inner beauty have a place to shine, have a place to show up. And the healing that you had to do in isolation without the help of somebody to put those broken pieces together has transformed into a level of strength that your guides want you to use to rescue yourself. And that might be really hard right now. You might be really tired right now. You might not want to do that. But who you are is this enlightened, enchanting energy that speaks through poetry and has a relationship with the divine where you so completely trust what you are being given in the way of information that you are learning, and that this receiving, again, moves back into what it is for you to know yourself, care for yourself, and step back into that desire. Your guides are saying it's not who are you becoming in terms of an arrival, it's the you are in the becoming. And what it means for you to rescue yourself right now is there's no reciprocation when it comes to rescuing yourself, except that what you get from rescuing yourself will be all the receiving that you ever needed. And so it might seem like you're not getting anything from this process, except that you will get everything from this process. You have the strength and you are supported in all of this, but you're meant to act, like begin to, it's funny, your guys are saying, I want you to take actions of love toward yourself without demanding anything in return for it. Take actions of take actions in loving yourself and don't demand something of it. So you can take the action of loving yourself by joining a yoga studio and like going through the process of going to yoga, but without some demand that by paying for this that you have to now change and go every morning and every night, and or else, like there's something about the gentleness of learning here with the student and focus here with the discovery and inner beauty with how does this express in the way that cares for me. This is going to be the rescuing process for you. And it doesn't look like instantaneous rewards. It looks like a process that is a lot like reparenting, but it's not at the same time. Like it's from a mature place. And so your guys want to sort of just like leave you there. What you're walking away from is these patterns and this self-concept related to this deprivation and this injustice. You're making a judgment call to move towards something very different in the way of a process toward learning how to receive. And that's where you are. And so pile number 1, I hope that was helpful, and I will see you again soon. Okay, pile number 2, those of you that chose the honeybee, we have what is already with you. And this is a super powerful card. I'm going to go ahead and speed up your shuffle so you can get some of these cards out on the table. Okay. All right, pile number 2. Wow. This is, well, what you're becoming is you're becoming so much. And I think that part of what your guides are bringing through with what I'm looking at here is a sense of yourself that I think that this is the way that other people sense you. I think that when other people see you, they see this magnificent creature of bold vision and powerful creativity and an ability to be the storm. And also like there's a way in which people see what you have that you don't really see what you have, or you've never really been able to hold this. 10 of Wands, 10 of Wands, clarify, by 9 of Wands, tells me that the version of you that people see and the version of you that you experience yourself as are completely different energies. And I think for a very, very long time, you have kept the part of you that doesn't show up as big and bold and magnificent, like a big secret. And I think that those who have seen through it have felt threatening to you a little bit. Because that 10 of Wands is going to be like a back-breaking burden things, people, circumstances forcing you to carry a weight that is unimaginably heavy, and it's like being on the front lines and you are outnumbered 100-1. That is this energy of like carrying the whole section of defense that it should be an army, but it's only you. And then that Nine of Wands again is going to just be a weariness that you haven't broken from the weight of what has been put on your back. You have stayed strong. And in some ways, like living with this as the wounded warrior is almost worse than having had a breakdown of some kind. And so your guys are basically saying, you know, what you are becoming, what you're stepping into, what you are forming, the new form that is this new next cycle that you are in, is one where everything that you carry with you is transformed into something that you're a lot closer to how people see you. And I say this because I think people put you on a pedestal. There's like no two ways about it. People do see you in high regard. Or something. Like I can't get over this distance between how you present yourself and are received and how you actually feel. I can't get over that distance. So I'm not sure how it manifests, but I just know that it's a very wide distance. Now, the guide that you have with you here that is speaking about you are coming into this place of blooming is also like very passionately, powerfully, like there's a passionate, powerful amount of love that you're not necessarily easily accessing from this energy, but it's there for you. And I'm saying it into your reading because I think that one of the things that you need to know about this life of burden, because I feel like your guide's showing me somebody who's like taking a shower in the morning and they're just going through that list of burdens that they carry, that they've always carried, and the way in which it just seems hopeless. Like it's never going to be this is a feeling of no one's ever going to support me. I'm never going to get the support I need. I'm always going to have to show up and do it myself. Like this is just the way that it is. It's backbreaking, but it is what it is. That's this right here. So like the question of who you are becoming, what is this new version of yourself that you're stepping into? Well, one of the major things that we have to look at about the process that you're entering into and that you're about to be in is doing away with this heaviness that you carry. Because it keeps you from moving into the next phase of your own development. It keeps you from maturing. And it has you in a place of waiting, constantly waiting for the right friends to show up, waiting for the right person to show up, waiting for the help that is needed. That's this whole section right here. The truth is you have what you need with you, but we got to work with this, because this is kind of in the way. This is how do I put this? Your talent is off the charts. Nobody would even begin to doubt that you have talent. You have so much talent that it's obnoxious. Like it really offends people. You are able to carry yourself with poise and strength through every storm that is thrown at you in such a way where people look at you and they say things like, that would have killed me. If that happened to me, I would have died. I never would have made it through that. That's a certain strength that you carry with you. You have a command and you have a confidence and you even have a charisma that other people find like downright off-putting almost. And again, with this big, bold vision, you see the big picture, your pattern recognition is off the charts. There's something that you carry with you in the way of presence. Not everybody has presence. Presence is something that affects the room and that affects the way that people respond to you. Again, if you're wondering if you have presence, how many people respond to you? You might say none, because I feel you over here being like, well, I have no friends. This is the spot. And I don't think you have no friends. I think you have I don't think you have a lot of intimate friends. Because this 10 of Wands and this 9 of Wands does not speak of a support system. And so whatever's happening here in terms of how you are received and perceived, especially the power of your voice, the power of your mind, this is a powerful energy. And then your ability to manifest, and you can and do manifest when you're able to sort of like click in, right? Your magic is off the charts. So all of that here is true. But then you're experiencing yourself here with this 10 of Wands and this 9 of Wands, like Like without the support, I can't express in this way. But I express in this way, and this is how people perceive me, but I'm not having the support. And so I don't feel that I am these things. There's a weird connection there that your guides kind of want to untangle for you. Let's get some more cards on this 10 of Wands and this 10 and this 9 of Wands. Because what you're stepping into is bringing what is already within you to the surface in a way that you never have before, that still shows up as being this big, magnificent, amazing human being that inspires people. And that boldness, you got big, bold vision and boldness here twice. Like that bold energy, that spirit, that power, like this artist, this expression, like all of this is kind of happening, but it's happening at like 30%. Your guides want you to dial it up all the way to 100%. You can dial it up all the way to 100% when you believe yourself in this, like this, where this isn't just for you, this is almost like these moments of clarity, you know, or if the crisis is big enough, you'll show up in this way. Or if you are in front of other people, you can, you know, galvanize this. But it doesn't feel like this is the inside you that lives inside you. This seems like this other Herculean energy that comes in and carries you to levels of success. Now, what your guides are basically saying is like who you are becoming, what you are blooming into is this energy that people perceive you as and that you actually are, and not this energy that you feel yourself as. And so you're coming closer to your skin with who you really are, what you already have. My throat chakra, it's just closing a little bit. But when it comes to owning what you have and being someone who's like, this is mine, I own it, and this is how I show up, and that's the way that it is, like owning it, really, really owning it and really embodying it, that's what this blooming for you is all about. Now you're showing up as the Hermit right now. And so you're Hermit powerful and your guides want to bring you into like relating with some of this. Now there's something having to do with the body, and there's some work that we have to look at in terms of the body and your relationship to your body. And there's something that we have to look at in terms of your body's vulnerability in relationship to love and intimacy and closeness. And that can be a lot of different colors. That can take a lot of different forms. I feel very powerful when I feel this, because I feel this and this whole section here, which is like your inside world and your outside world, and like how you are perceived and how you perceive yourself could not be farther from each other. Like we could not see a vaster split. And so this bridge, this creation, this moving you into what you really are, there's something that has to become overcome here with the body, because here with the body, there seems to be something to do with shame and even some level of self-hatred. And the only reason I'm saying that is because what your guides have you working on or moving into is it's an appreciation. So here, how can I put this? In the same way that the way that people perceive you and the way that you perceive yourself is very, very different, but what your guides are having you move into and what you're moving into and becoming is an embodiment of this magnificent version of yourself that you already have and that you already are. A knowing and a planted and a center of gravity with this sense of self instead of a center of gravity with this forsaken over here. Your guides are telling me, they're saying to me that when people look at your face, when they listen to you, people find you to be like shockingly, stunningly appealing at a physical level. And I don't care what shape your body is in. I don't care what you think when you look in the mirror and you start comparing yourself around. This is not something that you're able to conceive of or see. I am absolutely sure that you might even mentally log that you're physically attractive. You might mentally log that you have appealing features, but your physical whole thing, when I tell you that that's not even close to the thoughts that people have when they sort of pass you in the store. There's a pleasing quality to your features. There's a way in which people see you as really beautiful. And I'm fighting with somebody's sense of themselves that isn't that. So, we can argue about this. But the fact of the matter is what your guides are saying is like, that's a really good example of you move in the world as somebody who is ashamed of the body that they're in one way or another and doesn't feel that they are worthy of love, when everyone who passes you thinks some version of wow, look at that, she's beautiful, that person's beautiful, that person's really attractive, they have such a magnetism, like what is it, like look at the face, look at the way that they look, like there's a enviable quality about your presence, there's an enviable quality about your art, there's an enviable quality about what you bring in the way of inspiration, there's an enviable quality and just the confidence that you present with. And then there's an enviable quality of the spirit that walks with you and operates through you and has the power to manifest so much. There's an enviable quality about the way that you manage a storm. And there's an enviable quality about how you physically look. Stepping into the power of all of those assets are where you're going and what you're becoming. Managing the inside space that says, I will never be supported. No one's ever going to be there for me. Like the people who are going to be there for me are going to exact too high a price. I have to just weather this on my own, like this right here, and this hanged man of like, I cannot mature, I cannot grow, I don't have the opportunities, I'm waiting for those opportunities. I have all of this love to offer, I have all of this power to offer, I have this world and this bevy and this kingdom of emotional, nourishing intelligence to offer, but I'm waiting for that right thing, that right person, that right permission. And you guys are saying what right now is all about is looking at the feelings about, you know, when love is not safe, a lot of times we just develop levels of armor, and that can even filter into the way that we see ourselves as being desirable or not. And so when we step into this blooming, you guys are saying like, you never even bloomed before. You've never even had the experience of feeling yourself as like a flower that is like attracting the bees. Like this blooming for you is new. And so let's see what they want to tell you about this process, because again, you're showing up as the hermit planted in the dark, in the deep, is now sort of getting to that point in the soil where your little head is pointing, you know, like I'm seeing a flower, you know, just pop up and start to, like, you're in the soil deep with the Hermit card. It was planted as this sense of self, this gnosis of who you are. It's starting to hit the sunlight, you know, and then this process of development in the sunlight is going to be about experiencing yourself and seeing yourself as you truly are, which is how a lot of people perceive you. Do they perceive you in this way and treat you well? No, we're in a competitive society. You have assets. People are going to level you. You're not going to get any compassion. Good luck, 10 of Wands, 9 of Wands. Like, this is not a world that is safe to be anything of value. But it's also a world that will punish you if you're not holding those things. And so like this liminal space of you're all of these powerful things, you feel this way. And like none of this has really been something that you've been able to experience as blooming. Your guides are saying you're entering into this blooming, which means that hermit, the seeds that were planted, what you're carrying in this hermit space, it's hitting the sun. It's about to hit the sun. And so when we want to look, I want to look a little bit closer at this 10 of Wands, 9 of Wands situation here, and get a sense of how we can kind of work on some of this internal, the way that you're feeling versus the way that you show up, or the way that you can show up. So let's take a look. You've always shown up for people in a way where you're like, you're one of the rare energies in this world that doesn't level people. And wow, look at these cards. Look at that. Let me just sit with this for a moment. You've been waiting. You're in this, it's almost like you are stuck at waiting. You're waiting to be recognized. You're waiting to be appreciated. You're waiting for the right person or the right opportunity to give you that opportunity to shine. And that's where we have to overcome some, like your felt experience of all of your qualities have always been met by psychosexual obsession, you know, or rejection and cruelty, or leveling, or manipulative, just you name it. These things have not been loved, appreciated, or safe. And that happens actually a lot. If you don't have a safe home, if you have parents that are tripping on the acid of their own incomprehensible selfishness, which happens a lot, You're not gonna have a felt experience of these things. And when you show up at these things in the world without some felt experience of these things, everybody else is gonna know your value, and they're also gonna clock that you don't know your value, and it's just gonna be a whole life of being taken advantage of and used and thrown away and discarded, because that's the punishment that you get for shining in any way that other people might perceive is somehow, like, this is a regular thing with people and things and planet. It shouldn't be that way, and I think it's changing, and I think that this is what the moment that we're in for you is about. This change. It's about not hiding this sense of your own self from yourself in anticipation that it's not safe to be you until somebody or something shows up that provides a container for you to be safe to be you. This is going to be the hurdle we have to get over, that your guys are saying, you know, when it comes to your becoming and the process of your becoming, there's a lot of healing that has to happen. And if, I think if you're in a place where you're like, there's so much healing that has to happen, I don't even know who the hell this is. Like, I would look at pile number 1 because it kind of deals with that. But in terms of pile number 2, the process of waiting has to end, and the process of waiting has to end with you. And I understand that this is a stronghold. Like, I can feel this as being very powerfully having a grip on you, where without the right person or the right opportunity to show up as your full self, you have to keep on configuring yourself to meet the expectations of the people that are just happen to be there, and they're not enough. And so all that configuring in order to sort of get some of these needs met, because nobody's going to actually meet the needs, that's the lack of support. Your guides want you to step away from that pattern. And with the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Coins, the Justice card, and the 8 of Cups here, this is an interesting array of energies when it comes to what you are becoming. And I actually want to get clarification on that, because this is what that's the that 8 of Cups has me like, there is something that you have to walk away from within yourself in order to bring justice to your life. And the thing that you have to walk away from is waiting for somebody else to show up. And I know how hard that is, and I feel it as a stronghold, and I feel it as a stronghold along the lines of this very key thing. And that key thing is, if nobody met your needs, if you were somehow invisible, and in that invisibility, you knew that there was a story that you were told, that someday someone would see you, that someday the God that created you, the universe that birthed you into its world, would provide for you that right person, that right opportunity, that if you worked hard enough and you did all of the right things, then the outcome would be that safe place for you to show up fully and truly bloom without any fear of all of the things that come with showing up fully as yourself. Like, this permission, this waiting for, your guides are saying the reason why it's so hard to let that go and step into the authority and the dominion of your own opportunities in your own life is because you want so much, you are in love, there's so much love for the version of yourself that expected to be seen, chosen, loved. And you don't want to leave that version of yourself. You don't want to leave that dream. You don't want to leave that hope. It's so central to who you are that you carry it with you as an expectation unmet that keeps you from taking those steps into that next place, that next sense of self, that next new vista. And you've been conditioned to this. You've been conditioned to think that the things that you need in the way of all of the power that's meant to be yours, like, has to do with working your way through, like, goals and acquisition and like and positioning yourself. There's so much that goes into the waiting that you have been conditioned with, that you need to walk away from that waiting, because you are holding so much in the way of divine love. You have such an important path that is your path, that is always meant to be your path. There's such an incredible amount of responsibility that you are carrying in the way of a life path, that bringing justice to this, bringing justice to yourself, bringing justice to the situation, allowing yourself to move out of this place of expectation where you're holding the grief and waiting for the right place to meet that grief for relief, for somebody to take that pain from you. And your guides are saying, no, we just needed you to put it down. There's no one who's going to pick it up and take it away from you. There's no one who's going to provide that space necessarily. And that is a grief, and there is a mourning, and there is an unfairness, and there is an injustice in all of that. But for you to step into the power and the person that you are means walking away from a hope unfulfilled that has been such a powerful motivator in your life that you almost don't know yourself outside of it. And so let's get some cards on that, because I think that's really important. Everything that you want and need is what is already with you. And when it comes to sort of undoing this stronghold in terms of offers of love and a sense of yourself as truly beautiful and magnificent and powerful, we really just have to think about like how your guides want you to walk away from unmet needs. Walking away from unmet needs and then meeting those needs for yourself means walking away from the dream that there is somebody who will provide a space to care for you, to walk away from the desire for somebody who can take care of you, for a caretaker. That desire for a caretaker that is safe is as deep as you are old. And that unmet need that happened however it happened is not something that makes sense in terms of being an expectation that you love so much, this notion and this hope of something that you did deserve, something that was meant for you, something that should have been yours, but it wasn't. And so leaving it in the past and leaving that desire in the past and moving into a new space with yourself, there's a lot that's hard about that. There's a lot that's difficult about that. That is an attachment that is very powerful and very real and keeps you waiting to start a life that has already started, that is passing you while you wait for the things that you think are going to make that life the life you want to start. And this is sort of this point of confusion, because what you are becoming and that what you already are is somebody who can manifest anything that you want. It's somebody who is bold and has bold vision. It's somebody that is moved by spirit. It's somebody that no storm can ever shake truly outside of your sense of self. And it's somebody who brings a world of inspiration, an unspeakable amount of talent. And so to embody all of this stuff, to experience yourself as that blooming, necessitates this process that we are in right here, where what is already with you, what you already are, is the way that your guides are having you move into being in the world. Instead of having that split between what you know you are, but what you can't truly access in the part of you that is stuck waiting. And so let's go ahead and just look at this a little bit deeper, with this Ace of Cups being the universe's love for you is without end. And that Ace of Coins meaning the life path that is meant to be yours cannot be taken away. No one else is going to take it from you. It is a hard life path, but these qualities and these assets are for you, for where you're meant to be and what you were created for. And that there has been injustice here. But the injustice as it plays itself out now, seems to be a lot more hanging on to this. It's not just waiting, it's the story of waiting and everything in the story of waiting. The Poet, the Crossroads. The bottom of the deck is the Assassin. So I want you to think about this as a spiritual stronghold. The burdens of the past, what you were forced to endure in the past, what you were forced to carry in the past, this is the story that you are coming from. The story that you are coming from is 10 of Wands, 9 of Wands. That is unbelievable oppression. That is unspeakable oppression. And that is brutal. It is brutalized oppression. And it is a brutal lack of support. This Hanged Man and this Page of Cups is being stuck and whatever this oppression is keeps you from opportunities that allow you to mature in the world, so that you do not feel adequate. You feel like a little kid where everybody else seems to be an adult. And that's keeping you from really recognizing that when you do show up and when the world sees you, you show up as this big, bold, beautiful thing. And so that waiting for somebody to take your hand and walk you into your life in a way that that would give you a place to put all of this King of Cups wisdom on display, I see you doing it, but not feeling that you're doing it. I see you there, but not being there. And so I think that this tension here is like you are meant to embody this position and this place and this sense of who you are instead of embodying the loss and the grief and the lack. And so when we talk about the poet, relationships, vulnerability, all of the unexpressed love that you are carrying, and that includes all of the love that was not expressed towards you. Because that's what we're looking at with the 9 of Wands and the 10 of Wands, is all of the unexpressed love, all the ways that you have seen that love has not been expressed towards you, all the ways that you have not had a place to put your love and express it. This is enormous, but what it means to begin to express that love through these stories that aren't love stories in the traditional sense, but places where you experience and express love, where you have love to express, where you have love to express in the way for yourself in talking about the love that wasn't expressed towards you. This language that you're meant to bring to this burden of what love has done, the circumstances of love, that poet, relationships, vulnerability, putting down all of these battles and what these battles say and what these battles don't say and what these positions do and what they don't do, and just sitting with this feeling within yourself that says, I want to express my love. I don't know how to do it. There doesn't seem to be a safe place. I am waiting for that safe place. Your guides are saying, express the love. Find modes of expression. It might come out wobbly. It might come out jagged. It might come out confused. But as you begin to express this unexpressed love, and expressing love is not a love story half the time. Sometimes expressing love is grief. Sometimes expressing love is the shape of the absence of love and what that tells you about love. There's so many ways that your guides want you to begin to step into the expression and not the holding of all of these wands. It's going to be work. I kind of feel like it's going to be work. And with this Hanged Man and this Page of Cups, in the absence of opportunities to mature that would give you a sense of confidence about the road that you're on in life, your guides want you to forge this road for yourself, not by way of what people tell you about what's available to you, but you're going to be making your own road. There's nothing available. You're going to be creating something for yourself. And that road that you create for yourself is not necessarily something that is going to be immediately obvious to you. Like there might be some crosswords, some exploration that you begin to take in terms of finding the right fit for you. Finding the right fit for the life that you want to have is less about the opportunities that people are giving you and more about what you're willing to imagine for yourself. And I think that that's incredibly important here with this expressing love and expressing the love that was not expressed and what it means to be in all of this unexpressed lives, unexpressed love, looking at the lack of opportunity to mature in the world in the way that you felt like should have been given to you, and finding another opportunity by the way that you make yourself a place in the world. And this is asking you to make yourself a place in the world. And with all of these qualities, you can do it. You have what it takes. And you have the material to express these things in this poetic way through the love that you have for the life that you are, the person that you are, and the things that you wanted for yourself, and the stories of how that did or did not come to fruition, and what that tells you about who you are in the process of all those things, and what that gives you in the way of a path. Because in knowing yourself, you see your way forward. And so with this justice and overthinking, this is the hard part, and I think it is a confrontation, because you have to stop waiting for the things that you need to come to you in order for you to participate in the life that you want. And you have to start looking at the life that you want and thinking about what it means to gather the things that are going to make that life possible. And there's no waiting in that. There's not an ounce of waiting in that. There's planning and doing. With the injustice here and the overthinking taking action, there's an expectation that justice should come. That God should know who you are and provide for you as a result. That's a painful one right there. And I can feel my throat chakra actually like, that's kind of important somehow. That's something to express. Even expressing injustice is part of what this Ace of Cups and the Poet card is about. Finding words to express that injustice also requires you to connect with the part of you that loved and had so much love being expressed through that journey. And that car that drove by that was really, really loud. There's a lot that drowned. There's a lot about the injustices that you've experienced that drowns out the love that was in you through the experiencing. And that's that reconnection with self that your guides want to help you make in terms of taking on this new goal. And that is to be in the place of your strength and not referential to the things that made you weak or feel weak. In fact, there's no weakness in here. 10 of Wands, 9 of Wands, there's no weakness in that. You are like stronger than you could possibly imagine. But the overthinking, taking action is waiting for justice before you start, when there's not going to be justice before you start. The justice is going to come to you in the process of whatever it means to be stepping into this experience of yourself in life. And I think you have to confront the injustice. But I think you have to stop staying there. I think you have to stop living there. I think you have to stop trying to make the injustice work, make it right, answer the question, fix the problem. And until that happens, I can't start. And your guides are saying, no, put the injustice down. If you want to work with the injustice, you're going to express the unexpressed love. And in doing that, have a better sense of yourself and therefore a better sense of your path. What you're not going to do is stay with the injustice and live there, waiting for something to solve the problem. This is one of the hardest things, because when you live through an injustice, you become the helicopter looking for some place to land and never finding it because you're looking for that justice to land on. That justice doesn't exist. You're not going to find it. And so you just become a helicopter that can't land because you've seen the face of injustice and you need to fix it. You need to solve it. You need to fix, solve. And that's sort of what your guides are saying. That's that waiting. And they don't want you to wait with all of this unfinished, all of this unanswered, all of this injustice. Instead, they want you just to boldly step into that life and boldly step into a vision of your life that doesn't include acquiescing to the possibility of all the ways in which this injustice might resurface for you, because you've carried it alone. So you don't know how it's going to look when you begin to express it. And so that's what this lack of empathy, this confrontation, this brawler is in terms of the 8 of Cups. You have to be able to have this confrontation with the past and say, whatever it was, I'm walking away from it. I'm not going to live with the injustice because I need it to be solved. I'm going to let it be unsolved and then step into my power and again begin to express it, all that unexpressed love and all of the ways that it expresses. And that's going to be a little bit difficult. That's a little bit where the athlete and the knight come into play, and sort of bringing those energies in at the light aspect is not about waiting, but it's with the athlete, a dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. This is a handicap. What you had to deal with in terms of this 10 of Wands, 9 of Wands, that handicaps you. Not being given opportunities to grow in community and have that maturation and have that confidence causes a handicap in terms of what path you're meant to take or not take, what's available to you. The waiting, for a place, for everything that you have to offer, that's a trauma response. And so this dedication to transcending this handicap, and I want you to think about that because it does show up as something that is a real challenge for you to overcome. It does not show up as something that we're just going to make a decision and we're going to do it differently. This comes up as a major challenge because it operates like a handicap where you have to step into this strength, embody this strength, be in this strength and all of your strengths. And to do that, you have to process this stuff. And not process it in a way where you're waiting, but process it in a way where you're actually like using the materials of your pain, bringing your presence to that pain, looking at that pain and transforming it to meaning, and in doing so, emancipating yourself and giving you a better sense of yourself and healing yourself. And then that makes the path. It's a very, very big thing to do, but you have to have a dedication to transcending the limits that you feel in the story that you carry with you that is unfinished as an injustice. And it means giving yourself the love and the honor to allow for this reliving to let go, not reliving to demand a different outcome. Because that's what this poetry is. That's what this vulnerability is. That's what bringing a voice to this unspeakable stuff. A poem is not a narrative. It is not an article that is reported. It is stanzas that are incomprehensible, but somehow they hold so much meaning and so much power that anybody who encounters them is able to have a revelation about the meaning of something that they also have that they didn't know could be experienced in a new way. Becoming that poet, having that communication that you don't have to put on a defense and make an accounting for every point along the way. You have to step into the poetry, into the feeling, into the sensation, and make that meaning of that pain that transforms this into something that held you in abeyance, waiting for a breakthrough from somebody else, into that breakthrough for yourself through communication, through art. And that is what is already with you. And so this blooming is sort of this whole way of looking at the things that happened as materials, as clay for you to mold into something that upholds what's already there in the way of your sense of self. And so that pile number 2 is what we're looking at in terms of what your guides are seeing in terms of your becoming. You're becoming something that goes from the darkness of this hermit space into something that blooms into its own knowing and its own talents and its own powerful expression in spite of everything that happened before. And as a result of processing this, a road is created. An art form is expressed and transforms your experience. And to stop overthinking, stop trying to force justice here. Instead, make that justice by making something of it. You know, assassinating its power to continue to keep you waiting and step into your life, refusing to wait another minute. Pile number 2, that is your message, and I hope that was helpful. Okay, pile number 3, those of you that chose the little deer and the tree. Let's go ahead and see what we've got here. We have the Beyond the Mind, Heartbeats. So this is actually going to be a connection to your higher self. Let's go ahead and speed up the shuffle. Okay, pile number 3. Wow. This is actually kind of, there's so much here that some of this connects to the other 2, the previous reading, so that if you were called to all 3 for whatever reason, that's a distinct possibility. Because what I'm seeing here in terms of like who you are becoming, what you are stepping into, where you are going, what is this next version of yourself? With the Chariot card on the bottom of the deck, then it's some sort of movement. And I'm looking at this closely because part of what I'm seeing here in terms of this new iteration of self is a very powerful person, like an extraordinarily powerful person. It's almost like you are becoming a version of your highest self. And this is tricky though, because with the Divine Feminine and Hecate and Beyond the Mind, the Heartbeats, when I look at this, I see the mind, the conscious life, the life that you're in, the sort of like walk a day, work a day experience. But behind that mind, there's like a larger cosmic beating heart. There's what you are an extension of. And so there's something very powerful when I look at this DNA strain here and I look at the cosmos. You are actually, like, I want to say heavenly connected, heavily connected. You are connected at a level that is quite profound to your higher self and that higher consciousness and that higher quantum intelligence. There is a string here, a connection here, where I see the 2 particles. When one particle moves, the other particle moves in the other place, and they're connected. You seem to be a part of a cosmic movement, and so it's part of what you are becoming. And it's funny, this is the picture on the deck as well. Bottom of the deck energy becoming against the grain. What you are becoming is something that where it has been against the grain for a very, very long time. This is, I almost want to say, like, this is your time, this is your world, this is your moment. So you are becoming so powerfully the version of yourself that has tremendous amount of magic, that operates as the divine feminine representation of God. And I know that sounds like a big deal, but I think that there are a lot of people who are spiritual and have been doing the spiritual work, that who they become as a result of all the spiritual work is a representative or a representation of that divine energy. And I'm seeing you as being moving toward this like powerful representation of whatever your highest self divine energy is. And Hecate is a symbol for me of that highest self, that version of yourself that is infinite, that has already lived these lives, that has an origin story somewhere in these lives, but eventually leads to a place that is more deified. And that's the heart that and the mind that beats in that cosmic sense. And so you're moving towards that. You're moving towards embodying that in one way or another, especially with Hecate magic and the Magician card here. Now, that Two of Wands, and that's going to be about planning and preparation, and that Four of Swords is about healing, and that Six of Coins is about reciprocity. I think that this is important because your guide, I'm hearing your guide say, did you recently turn to your guides and say, like, I need a reward. Give me a reward. Like, it's time for a little, I've been putting the work in. I've been doing this stuff. It's time for the reciprocity. Like, where are you? Show me the money. I don't want to do this unless that's like this. Six of Pentacles, that feels like that to me. So there's something about you planning for this healing process that involves a level of reciprocity, and your path is heavily protected. And there's nothing that is gonna stop that. So that Ace of Pentacles with the Seven of Swords tells me that your path, the path that is meant to be yours, the path that was always meant to be yours, is heavily defended. Heavily defended. There's a massive defense. Now, the reason why I say it's a massive defense is because with the Seven of Swords, usually defense is like a Seven of Wands thing. But I see this path as being something that, like, even you had to labor under the deception of where do you belong and who are you and where are you going. Because it like underneath whatever that false path was is the truth of who you are and the truth of the path that you're meant to go on with this Queen of Wands here. Let me look at that a little bit closer. That's a little bit convoluted. I want to get a deeper look, because this Seven of Swords is coming at me in the energy of a Seven of Wands, like very powerfully. And this Ace of Pentacles speaks of your path that nobody can take away. And so whatever this defense in deception is, with the Fire Queen of Wands here, let me see what that is. Cards on that. This is a hard road. This is a hard road. The Damsel, the King, and the Avenger. Well, that's interesting. That's kind of a twist. Bottom of the deck, we have the Alchemist. Okay, let's figure this out. Because, you know, we have transcendence here, which means this enlightenment is designed to transform you. There is a being transcended from the day-to-day, workaday life experience and being transported into a sense of yourself and an experience of yourself that is much more divine and much more aligned with your divine origins. Now, there's justice in that. There's a tremendous amount of justice in there. But that there's transcendence and that the Justice card is present here means there's some injustice that requires transcending. And when it comes to this deception and this defense against your path or for your path, or like, it's such a murky thing here, because I see your path is set and nobody can mess with you, and it belongs to you, and it's always belonged to you from the beginning of the time. From the beginning of time, who you are, what you're made of, your ascended form, there's something here about that position and that road that is not only heavily defended, especially by some level of deception, like where you can't even really see it, but you coming to a sense of yourself despite that defense and deception is kind of the path itself as well. And so you're on the path of discovery here, and in that discovery, like you overcome something here with the defenses. And it's foggy actually, because you've got that devil with the 3 of Cups. Now, deception and defense around your position and your place in the world. And then we've got the devil, which is a type of enslaving community with 3 of Cups. And that this is over here with the 10 of Wands in reverse. It means that the weight of the world is off your back. The weight of whatever this calling was is off of your back. So whatever that devil card and that 3 of Cups celebration community, whatever had power over you, that was like these, again, like pile number 2 had the 10 of Wands, and the 10 of Wands was like no support system, having to carry the weight of the burden of everybody else's needs just to get like a scrap of sustenance, and that going beyond a breaking point and just becoming this strength of independent deprivation. That was sort of pile 2, like had to kind of really overcome that. And I see that in pile number 3, we see something along the lines of you having overcome that you did overcome that. And so your relationship with community is going to be different. It's a different version of yourself. And this is, again, with this Ace of Wands, you've done this work, and you also have the Queen of Wands as well. I think that this is tough, actually. You have to prepare to heal so that you can fight for your position and your place by putting down everything that was ever lodged against you and every exploitation that ever came your way. And in doing so, you emancipate yourself, and you will have the inspiration to do so. And you will break the stronghold that is over you in the way of a false something. And that will be the justice. And there will be a transcendence of the circumstances and an enlightenment that is brought through this. And that you have to move against the grain, or you've had to move against the grain, even of your own desire, but that the magic is there. And so like this damsel, this king, and this avenger here speaks of relying on yourself in a healthy way, but for emotional sustenance. And so that's a little bit confusing for me, especially when we look at it in terms of like, you know, so whatever this life that you've led, whatever this path that you are on, whatever position that affords you, you kind of have to fight for the truth of this within yourself, because there's a defense against it. And so a good example of the defense against the person that you are, the energy that you are, the you that you are, is going to be when you have a sensation where you feel like you are I'm trying to get a good analogy for this because it's a really tricky thing to try to explain. You may have a sense of the person that you are and the character, the main character you are in your own story. You may have a sense of the main character that you are in your own story. And that main character that you're really clear about, that is you, might not make a lot of sense in the world that you're in. So if you're showing up as the main character in a story where you're a hero and you feel like you don't have a right to embody this aspect of self or this version of yourself, and so you can't be the hero, because if you're a hero, then somebody might be upset by that because they want to be the hero. And if you're showing up that way, and now we have to like negotiate, and like, what does it mean for you to like think that you have an important path, but you're not allowed to be special, because if you're special, then that makes somebody else less special, and if somebody else is less special, then you're not real, and that's not right. And so there's something wrong and suspicious. And so it's like there's a lot that you have to fight through in the way of what your path actually is, because it's going to offend people who want everybody to be the same level of smallness. And that is something that can either control and take dominion over you in community, meaning how people are affected by the presence and the person that you are, and the path that you're meant to be on, and the path that's meant to be yours, how they are affected buy that is not something that your guides want you to negotiate with at all, because this defense of your role, defense of your life, defense of the life that you're meant to have, and the defense of the person that you're meant to be, all of that defense is a deception. And it's a deception because who you are and who you are meant to be is much closer to your higher self, does present as a divine representation. And anybody who has a problem with it, it seems like you've been able to not care. It seems like you've been able to just put that away and throw that off. Because the control and the enslavement of community is only possible if we don't have some inspiring facet that shows us another version of reality than the one that we've been handed by someone who has an agenda that isn't our own. And so, this understanding the nature of healthy romance and inspires you to rely on yourself is, again, back to like the notion of what your path is meant to be. You're the one who is going to emancipate it from deception of what people think it is. You're the one who is going to emancipate it from a deception of what you think you're only allowed to have based on what other people. You're the emancipator of your path, and nobody can take your path away, but people can keep you from recognizing it's where you're supposed to be. And so that's sort of what, what are you becoming? You are becoming this Queen of Wands, this glow up, this amazing, beautiful, captivating presence, despite the defense against such a thing, despite a deception that says that you have no right to show up that way because of X, Y, and Z. And so there's a romanticism or a romantic aspect to life and romanticizing your life that you're meant to have a healthy relationship with. But that means that the inspiration that comes in that allows you to romanticize your life is something that you allow yourself, because that's also what's going to emancipate you. Because the king here, you're being called to take a leadership role in your own life, and I don't think that that's been the case. I think that there is heavy, there's a heavy presence of energy to pile 2. So I think that there's something here of not leading your own life, having stories lead your life, having ideas that you think should be the thing lead your life, but leading your life is what you're being called into, and being in a leadership role. Part of your path is to be in a leadership role, which means that about 80% of the people that you encounter are going to question whether or not you have a right to have that leadership role. And in order for you to function in that leadership role, you have to do whatever it is that people do that disqualify that constant questioning, because that's going to be there for a number of reasons that have nothing to do with you whatsoever. And so with this Avenger here there is something about your path and something about your story that you're meant to bring this Queen of Wands energy to avenge yourself, to speak your own truth, to speak your own desire. This is like a complicated and difficult thing, but there's reciprocity for you in the healing process. And you're meant to give and be generous with yourself in this healing process. You're meant to give yourself generously with time, give yourself generously with a focus. And there is some aspect of avenging yourself from whatever the deception is around what your path is meant to be. Because that's kind of the work of like, what are you becoming? You are becoming your highest self. You are using this bottom of the deck energy of the alchemist to work with all of the deception and all of the defenses in a way that emancipates yourself from them by stepping into your role and stepping into your path unapologetically. And in doing so, you release yourself from the opinions of others. And now that's something that has to be done. Like, there's a reason why you have to go from self-sufficient and healthy with love within yourself into allowing yourself to be into this leadership position in the right kind of way, so that you can bring this avenging energy with the inspiration that comes through you with this Ace of Wands. There's a lot of fire here. And the funny thing about your pile is that, like, I feel a lot of fire present in this energy, but I don't feel this fire, actually. Like, on the one hand, you've got this healing process that means you're gonna have to give to yourself quite a bit. And a lot of that has to do with making peace with your life story, making peace with your path, and then allowing yourself to step into your power. Doesn't matter how other people are gonna feel about it. doesn't matter whether they feel like you have that you earned the role that to be cast in this way in your life. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. And so this leadership position, though, you have to reckon with a feeling like you don't deserve it, or that it'll hurt you, or that you can't have it, or that you're not up to the, to the call. And that putting down all of other people's opinions, all the things that people might have told against you, all the battles you won and lost, and that just you carry with you as a weight, especially when it comes to approaching community or being around community, feeling enslaved by like the judgments that are possible that will be wrong because blah, blah, blah. There's so much there. You've got a lot to alchemize here. And your higher self is heavily and powerfully with you. There's nothing that you won't be able to accomplish with the Magician and Hecate, but a transcendence is required. That means that wherever you are, like whatever you're swimming up against the grain with in terms of a life story, it needs to be transcended, and that's going to be an avenging, like it's going to have an avenging effect. You will be avenged. If you don't realize that you're going to be avenged, you will be avenged. And I think that that's important for someone to hear. Because you're going to be transforming something that is like, there's some like base motivation or some kind of like base something here in terms of motives. And it might be the base motives of others, like base motives of others towards you that have given you a sense of yourself that isn't powerful, that isn't majestic, that isn't like worthy. You're going to be transforming that into some kind of a golden wisdom here. And that's that transcendence. And this is the call. And so who are you becoming? You are becoming a powerful spiritual energy, a powerful manifestation of highest self in a world that does not have that kind of access traditionally. And you are avenging your own life story by way of the inspiration that is going to be given to you for community, through you in community. But stepping into your life is something that you are petrified of. And I think it has a lot to do with this story where there is defense and deception. So let's look at this story a little bit more, because you have to take that role of king over your life story. You have to learn a new way of relating to your path and the path that you have been on. Instead of a path that is just a consuming nightmare, your guides want you to step into this story as something that was always meant to be powerfully yours. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a responsibility, a massive responsibility. You came into a life that the alchemist and the alchemist. When I tell you that it is your job to alchemize your life story into something that emancipates not just you but others, that inspiration will be there, the magic will be there, you will be embodied by your highest self. There's no words for how supported you truly are, but there is a call to alchemize this stuff within yourself and to work on alchemizing this stuff within yourself, because reconnecting with desire, that's a big deal. This was the same bottom of the deck energy from pile number 1. Reconnecting with your own desire to live. I feel like there's a flatness there. And so when we think about this process of stepping onto your path and claiming it as your own and taking dominion over it and taking a leadership role in your own life, and having that leadership role that you take in your own life be a leadership role that is felt as you travel through the world, despite what you're going to have to encounter with community, there is a fire, there is an inspiration, there is an avenger that travels with you. And so, there's a lot that you have to learn about who you are and about this project of life that you have stepped onto and stepped into, because I feel like you look at your life now and you think this has just been punishment. I get that distinct feeling. And I think with the new projects and learning, there are things that you have not experienced in the way of joy. There are things that you have not yet experienced in the way of love. There are things that you have not yet experienced in the way of belonging. There are things that have not been given to you on the path that you have had thus far that has deceived you about what's available to you. And so this new project and this learning is taking dominion over the certainty you feel about a whole bunch of stuff, especially in regards to what you think is available to you in life. That's a big deal. And so being open to hope being open to desire, being open to wonder, being open to dreaming. What dreams have you closed the door on because they're no longer possible? And your guides are saying there's a lot of information you were given by the life that you received that deceived you about what's available to you. And you're making decisions about what's available to you based on those things. And you might not be 100% right about that. And so as you take dominion over your life, part of that is looking at the things that you hope for, look at the things that you want, and instead of discouraging them away based on the past's influence, actually coaxing them alive again. And so, there was loss, and there are risks that are involved in hope. There's risks that are involved in wanting things. But those risks that are involved in hope and those risks that are involved in wanting things are going to put you on a path where you are participating and experiencing life. And it's only in the participating and the experiencing of life that you are able to receive any blessing. Your guides cannot bless you in any other way. So it almost doesn't matter what the hope is and whether or not the hope is even rational. If it gets you to participate and experience, then your guides have an avenue to bless you. And so that your guides are saying, there has been some deception related to loss and risks and what it means to hope and not hope. And your guides want you to do away with that and step into an adventure of rediscovery, because you have an expectation to really get to know yourself and really get to know your path. And I think that we want to look at that, because that's all of this alchemizing is: look at your path. What is it telling you? I don't like it. Okay, how can we alchemize this? What needs to be brought into it? What do you need to take dominion over? What do you need to be in leadership with yourself over? There's a fragmenting here, and you keep on. Your guides are showing me somebody who has a fracturing, and that the place where they spend their time in that fracture is almost the place of least resistance. And your guides want you to sort of resist the sinking into the self without hope and just seeking comfort as the only hope. They want you to resist that, and instead they want you to coax alive some sense of a life that you want for yourself that maybe you feel is foreclosed. But it's not, because it's meant to be your path. Because whatever your path is, whatever is meant to be your path, there is some kind of deception here that your guides don't want you to defend anymore in the way of limitations. And so with this alchemist being on the bottom of the deck, that's kind of the work that your guides want you to do, is to alchemize this defense and this despair about what's available to you out of you, and bring in new hope and new experiences and new possibility. Because doing so is going to be the hardest part of what will otherwise be an incredibly powerful, transcendent, enlightening, justice-bringing, desirable outcome. Like, where you're going is good. You just have to move through this process in terms of reckoning, because that reckoning has value, that reckoning has gifts, that reckoning has wealth, but it's a little hard to do. And what makes it a little hard to do is that there's still a belief here from this deception around who you are and what your path is, that you're somehow smaller than this divine feminine representation of God on the earth, moving with a tremendous amount of magic and bringing justice through this transcendence and this enlightenment. If you can let yourself be that, instead of feeling hopeless and looking around at your life like you failed something, that movement from I don't know why I can't get it right to I am divine, this is what your guides want you to do, and they want you to do it through the stories that you tell yourself about yourself. That's where you have all the power. And if there is a major resistance with that, I want you to ask yourself why. Why are you married to the version of yourself that is defenseless? Is it because you believe with all your heart that at any moment a storm could come and a tornado could rip your house out from underneath you and your job could be gone, and then what are you going to do? Because that's the truth, because you know the truth, because you've seen it, because you've been victimized in life, and you know that that is the real thing, and therefore that is where your faith is in terms of who you are. I know that makes sense, but that's the devil card right there. because that is stuff that happened to you. Things that happen to you and things that could happen to you are not who you are. And your guides need you to really sit with that. The things that happened to you in the past and the things that could happen to you in the future are not who you are. Who you are is outside of both those things. Who you are exists as something much more powerful and much more magnificent. And so it is a choice, because you also know the version of yourself that is infinite. You also know the version of yourself that is the presence that when you return to it is divine. It is the presence that when you return to it, you love. It is the part of you that you fight for every single time someone looks at you and says, you're garbage. You say, no, I'm not. That part of you that knows who you are, that knows what your value is, that knows that in the fighting for you that it does. That is the part your guides want you to align with. You are holy. You are powerful. You are capable of great magic. You have been against the grain, and you have had trial after trial after tribulation after trial, and we do understand, your guides do understand what that tells you about what is available to you, but they want you to put it down. They want you to put it down. And they want you to align with the version of yourself that is infinite and the version of yourself that is divine. And they want you to start telling yourself stories about that version of yourself. And they want you to start seeing yourself as that version of yourself, because that's a true version of yourself. It's just which part of yourself are you going to feed? That's the part of yourself that is going to grow. That's the part of yourself that is going to take dominion over your life. And so your guides want you to think about all the aspects of self and what you're investing in. And they want you to pull your investment out of aspects of self that you feel are insufficient, are unlovable, because that's a false perception that you feel is victimized and vulnerable to victimization, because that may have been an experience that you had, but that is not who you are. And they want you to stop identifying with experiences that you had that made you feel a certain kind of way, that is not a permanent feeling of a certain kind of way unless you let it become who you are. They want you to move these things off, and they want you to get in touch with who you are, because who you are is infinitely powerful. And what happened to you is not you. What happened to you is something that you digest. What happened to you is something you make meaning of. What happened to you is something that you make decisions about the way that you're going to behave and the way that you're going to orient towards the circumstances of your life with. You make choices based on information from the past, but you don't bring in the way that the past made you feel as the person that you feel you are. And your guides really want you to know that the person that you're becoming is divorced from the things that happened to you. It is divorced from the feelings associated with those things that happened to you. And it is in a place of transcendence and emancipation. And so when you begin to interact with that part of yourself that stands up every single time you are knocked down, and say, I am the person who stands up every time I am knocked down, instead of saying I am the person who is knocked down, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And so who you are becoming is your highest self, powerfully in this lifetime. And you have the power in this lifetime as that highest self to bring in magic, legitimate magic, and be the divine feminine representation of all that is holy, all that is true. You have the power to overcome these circumstances, and your guides are here to push and move you through that. And I want to get some information from them. Let's get some words from them, just about what this is going to mean for you. Because there's so much that they're like, we know who you are. We know what you're capable of. All we need from you is to agree that yes, you are capable of taking on the story of your life and transforming it from something that taught you defeat into something that teaches you victory. And you do that through the alchemization of bringing presence to pain and making it into meaning. And that can be a hard process. I mean, we can talk about what that process looks like. You can work with tools that will help you through that process. But right now, it's important for you to understand that who you are becoming is your avenger. Who you are becoming is the version of you that is infinite, that has already lived all of these lives, that you have a direct channel to and with and through. What you're becoming transcends every single thing that you've ever had to go through, and it does not define you and it does not hold you. And you do this with an alchemy. The alchemist and the alchemist, these are these bookends of alchemists. There's nothing that you've gone through, nothing that you have been put through, nothing that you have had to endure that you can't turn into gold. And I think you need to know that, and I think you need to hold that, and I think you need to put that in your pocket. And when you're wondering who you are, you're going to say, I am divine, and there is nothing that I have been given that I cannot alchemize into gold by way of my goals. When that is who you are, when that is what you identify with, it's very different. Very different. Got a whole stack here. I think I'm just gonna take this whole stack here. Your guide is saying, listen, Spirit has your back in this transformation. Spirit has had your back all along. You do have something very difficult to get through. You do have something very difficult to communicate. You do have something very difficult to transmute. There's no two ways about it. Whatever the story of your life has been, it's given you a picture of the reality of the world and what you're capable of that is not true. And you're meant to bring a defense in the way of what you know you are and what you know you are capable of, despite all of that stuff. And Spirit has your back in this. You are not doing this alone. You do have to revert down back to this beginner's mind, because I can feel that there are parts of you that are calcified around fear, calcified around like the experience of expressing love or not expressing love. And so your guys kind of want to bring you back into a place of spiritual vulnerability with the divine, where you say, I hear you, I am divine, but I also need the divine to step in, make itself known, make itself a presence in my life, show me that Spirit has my back so that I can step into this place of openness and wonder, because that is a movement that your guides want you to go through and move through, but they want you to bring a gentle touch to this process, because there's trust issues. You have trust issues with the divine. You have trust issues with the version of yourself that is infinite, that has already lived all of these lives. You have a lot of trust issues because you have identified for so long with the circumstances that you've had to endure. And the feelings that those circumstances brought up in you became your homeostasis. And so that's why you identify in a way that is not really true to what you're capable of, because you don't have these other experiences. And so you have to bring a gentle touch to what it means to come at this from a beginner's mind and a beginner's place, to not be certain, to not be a warrior, but to be almost allow yourself to be a child to your highest self, because that is the Spirit that has your back, because the truth will transcend the illusion, and you'll be able to see that the divine detours that you were taken on, that had you thinking on your feet, also had you encountering the person and the version of yourself that is stripped away from what everybody else thinks, so that you could really get to know yourself. You're meant to lay a solid foundation for the world and the life that you're stepping into. You do that by being in the present moment. You do that by being gentle with yourself in your healing process, in the way that you reevaluate the things that have happened to you, so that you can cast yourself as a powerful magician instead of somebody who is victimized beyond any ability to cope. Because you are beginning a new cycle. And in that new cycle, with Spirit, a truth that transcends all the illusions of deceptions about your worth and your value and what you have to offer is going to transform in your present experience as you lay this new foundation. And so your guys are really encouraging you right now. And with the bottom of the deck energy being trust in the magic, you know, they are encouraging you to trust in the magic of where you came from, trust in the magic of where you're going, but also understand that the tyranny around what you've been through and the fear that it has you projecting on what you could conceivably go through, that cannot be what is a governing principle in your life. The governing principle in your life has to be your strength, which is, without question, tremendous, amazing, magnificent. And I want you to take this journey And it might take a little time and it might be a little effort, but it's a journey to seeing yourself in a new way, because what you are becoming is that expression of self. And your guides want to welcome you into it and tell you that you are on the right track. You are going perfectly to pace, and that you're not alone in this. And even if you feel discombobulated right now, even if you feel disconnected right now, there's a lot that is fluctuating and a lot that is changing and a lot that has to be reestablished. But you are supported in every conceivable way. And your higher self is so close to you that when you breathe, they breathe through you. And so I want you to think about that. Really, really begin to commune with the strengths that you are embodied by, because they have something to tell you and something to offer you and something to carry you with. And so pile number 3, we're going to leave it right there. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you again soon.